Hello, my creative friends. Welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Today I'm going to show you how to draw Tweety Bird. I love drawing the Looney Tunes. I have a themed art date that I host on my blog, rainfrancisart.com, every Thursday. It's open all day Thursday and all day Friday if you want to participate. It's a lot of fun. I always incorporate a Looney Tune into my theme. I just love drawing them, and I wanted to show you a few of the ones that I've drawn in the past. This I did for an Instagram challenge last year called the 25 Doors of Christmas. I actually did 25 Looney Tune Doors of Christmas, and it just was so cool to do. And there's Tweety Bird in his gilded cage with his Christmas door and his picture of Granny, and he hears something up on the roof. And he's always a good boy, so I'm sure he got a lot of gifts that year. This I did one January when my theme was board games and game night. Tweety Bird is playing jacks. This whole dollar store drawing pad is filled with Looney Tunes. This is another one I did when the theme was cookies last May. Tweety Bird sitting in bed reading Jane Eyre with his Hudson's Bay blanket, eating chocolate chip cookies and drinking Strawberry Quick. Kind of reminiscent of what I used to do as a kid. I really liked Strawberry Quick. And this was a recent one I did for a theme called Mornings. Tweety Bird starts his mornings by meditating. I just wanted to show you that once you have the basic outline and you learn how to draw the Looney Tunes, you can draw them in any situation, doing whatever you want. You don't have to follow images you see on the internet. You can be creative and put them in any situation, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. So let's draw Tweety Bird. So to draw Tweety Bird, we are going to use geometric shapes and measurements. I can pretty much draw him freehand now, but I've practiced doing this for years, so I'll show you how I started. I'm going to be using centimeters as my measurement this time because we've got small measurements. So I'm going to make a circle that is 7 centimeters in diameter, and that's going to be the top part of his head. So here's my 7 centimeters, and I'm going to mark out the halfway point. This is how I draw a circle. So I'm going to put 3.5 centimeters on my halfway point and draw the top and bottom of the 7 centimeters there. And in each quadrant here, I'm going to go out 3.5 centimeters and put a mark. And that's going to give me the guideline to drawing my circle. Try not to press too hard when you're doing this at home because you're going to be erasing your marks. I'm pressing a little hard so that you'll be able to see what I'm drawing because I've got very bright lights here. And as I mentioned in my last video, this is a house of pets. So sometimes you'll hear, like right now, my dog trying to get comfortable. She's going to flop down at some point. Always when I'm recording. So that's kind of a lopsided circle there. There we go. Just to make things a little less confusing, I'm going to erase the inside line here that I drew. So that's the top of Tweety Bird's head. Now we're going to do the section where he has his cheeks and his beak and his chin, and that's going to be an oval. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to draw a line down the center of the circle. That's the middle of the circle. So just below and to the left of the center line below the circle, we're going to draw a mark that's 1 centimeter to the left. And from the end of the circle, 1 centimeter down. And to the right, just below the circle, we're going to put a mark at 3 centimeters. And that's going to be the guideline for the oval. The oval is going to go through the circle. Settle down, Marlene. They always get up and start making noise when I'm busy. There we go. Now the oval is kind of rotated to the right. It's on an angle, it's not straight across. Okay, so that's basically his chin and beak and cheek area. So just below the oval, from the center line of his head of the circle, we want to make another mark that's 1 centimeter to the right. And that's basically going to be the middle of his body. So what you can do is draw a line straight down. And to avoid confusion, I'm going to get rid of this other long line here. So now we've got Tweety Bird's head, and we've got a marker to show us where the middle of his body is. So the next thing we're going to do is draw a little neck, 2 little lines on either side of the middle line of his body. And for his actual body, we're going to measure the head. The head is about 8 centimeters. His body is half the size of his head. So at the base of his neck, we're going to measure 4 centimeters down. And his body is an oval. And it's not a big wide circle or an oval. He's not a big fat fatty like Porky Pig is. Tweety Bird is in great shape, probably from running away from Sylvester all those years. So now we're going to do his arms. From the top where his shoulders would be, we're going to just bring a few sticks out. He's got short little arms and shorter forearms, and a little circle for his hand. Same thing on this side. And now we're going to do his legs. He's got short little legs, 2 sticks, and how about I just erase this line here? As most Looney Tunes have, he's got huge feet, so we're going to draw big ovals. And that's your basic Tweety Bird outline. So now we're going to start working in the details. Between the center line of his head and the left side of his head, we're going to draw a curve. And the curve is going to be just here along the top of the oval. That's what I call the cutesy curve. That's the little curve that makes his eyes look very cute. So I'm referring it to it as the cutesy curve. And from the top of the cutesy curve, we're going to measure 2.5 centimeters and down 1 centimeter. That is basically going to be here, the top of his eye, and this is the top of his iris. So we're going to draw an oval down to the cutesy curve, but not quite to the edge. But you want it to be at the edge of this side. And his iris is here. I'd say about halfway you want to draw his pupil. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing for his right eye, about halfway across from the center line of the circle to the edge, right edge of his head. We've got about 3 centimeters, so I'm just going to put a little mark here at 1.5 centimeters. And that's going to be the middle of the cutesy curve, and we're going to follow this oval as well. And then we're going to go up and do the same thing. 2.5 centimeters and 1 centimeter down. The oval for his eye. His iris, halfway down approximately. His pupil. Okay, now we are going to do the cheek. His cheek lines up with the edge of the right eye's cutesy curve. And you're going to follow along the bottom edge of the circle. Just like that. And now we're going to do his beak. His beak is kind of like a teardrop, but on the side. So think of it like that, a teardrop, and it goes along the bottom edge of the circle, and the bottom of his beak is just a semicircle. Okay, now we're going to do his arms. We're going to go from the side of his neck, round the shoulders, and draw his arm round the elbow. And we can draw his little hands like that. Same thing. Rounded shoulders, rounded elbows, and his hands. For his legs, he's got these little rounded squares, I guess, that come down here. And then you want to draw his legs. They're very skinny. His ankle goes in a bit, and he's got 2 toes. There's a bit of a curve here. One toe, 2 toes, bit of a curve, and back up. Okay, so now we're going to just make sure that the body is the right size. It looks a little bit big, looks a little too oval, so I'm going to give him a bit of a curve like that there, and also here a little bit of a curve so he looks more like a peanut. And I'm going to erase that side here just to show you where the tail goes. He's just got sort of a tail like this that looks like a leaf. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do here is fix his cheek area, because his cheeks are not round like this. They kind of go like that. And I'll just show you by erasing a little bit what I mean. You see, they kind of come in a little and then out. And I could even make it a little more like that. Just want you to be able to see it. So he has his round head and it kind of curves and goes like that. So that's Tweety Bird. Now what I'm going to do is take my Winsor Newton 0.8 Fineliner ink pen and draw the outline. Normally I use Sharpies to do all of my Looney Tune drawings, but one thing that I can't stand about Sharpies is that they bleed everything. When it's a warm, bright color. For example, Tweety Bird, as we know, is yellow. If I use black Sharpies to outline him, and then colored him in with either a yellow Sharpie or a yellow alcohol marker, it would bleed everywhere. And it would look awful. I can get away with using Sharpies when I do other Looney Tunes like Bugs Bunny, because the gray doesn't bleed so much. And obviously Daffy Duck and Sylvester the cat, they're black. As long as it doesn't touch Daffy Duck's orange beak, usually it's okay. But what I have to do with these ink pens is I have to let them dry. Otherwise they also bleed with the bright, warm colors like orange and yellow, unfortunately. So I always let the ink pen dry for 10 minutes. And then I come back and color it in. Well, I have to let it dry before I erase, actually. So now we've got Tweety Bird. He's all outlined. I'm going to set my timer. Actually, I'm going to take a note here for the time. So I know that I'm actually going to let it sit for 10 minutes, and just while that's sitting, I wanted to just show you what I did. I did this the other day, just to show you the differences. On this side, I outlined this teardrop with here, a black Sharpie, and these two, my Fineliner ink pen. Same thing here, black Sharpie, Fineliner ink pen. On this side, I used my alcohol-based marker to color in the teardrop. On this side, I used a yellow Sharpie. You're not supposed to have to wait for a Sharpie to dry to color in. As you can see, when I use the alcohol-based marker with the black outline Sharpie, it bled everywhere. Same thing here, when I used the yellow Sharpie, it bled everywhere. I let the Fineliner outline dry for 2 minutes, and I used the alcohol-based marker. It still bled a little bit, and the Sharpie was just terribly messy. Then I let my Fineliner ink pen dry for 10 minutes, and I applied the alcohol-based marker, and it was great. There, it got a red star. I let it dry for 10 minutes and tried to color it in with a Sharpie, and it got all messy and gross. So this is what I'm doing. I'm letting my ink dry for 10 minutes, and then I'll go in and erase all of my pencil marks, and then I'll be ready to color it in. Okay, so I've let this dry for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase all of my pencil marks and hope that nothing bleeds out. But in all of my tests, it seems to hold up pretty well to the erasing if I let it dry. Vinyl eraser, by the way. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a dollar store drawing pad. I don't like drawing very hard on my pages, on my paper and canvases, because, you know, for this tutorial I did draw quite hard because I've got really bright lights here and it's hard to see sometimes, and I want to make sure that you guys can see everything that I'm doing. But when you apply your pencil with too much pressure, you have to erase harder and it can damage your paper. And sometimes you may not be able to get all of those eraser marks out. That's why, with the exception of, you know, doing something like this on a kind of cheap canvas, dollar store canvas, I always suggest that you draw what you want to apply on your canvas first and then transfer it over. And I have a video on how to transfer your stencils onto your canvas, because you don't want to damage your paper. See, if I went ahead and started applying, for example, watercolors or, you know, maybe even some charcoal, it wouldn't turn out very nicely, because the paper is definitely damaged, the amount of erasing I'm doing here and the pressure. But it's okay right now because we're just doing this for fun and we're using markers. You could also use colored pencils. So now it's all erased. As you can see, Tweety Bird is coming to life. He's got 4 colors on him. These are the 4 colors. I've got a black Sharpie for his pupil, which is interesting because sometimes in some of the shorts I've noticed that his pupil is a dark blue. It changes once in a while. His iris is a kind of turquoise blue color. I've got a Papermate ink pen that I'll be using. His beak and his feet are orange, so I've got an Artist Loft alcohol-based marker for that. And for the rest of his body, I've got the yellow color. This is just yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. And I'm going to be as careful as I can not to go outside of the ink outline. I'm just putting my glasses on because I always forget to put my glasses on. Don't like to admit that I need glasses to see up close now. So I'm just going to fill in his entire body with yellow. I really love these Artist Loft alcohol-based markers. I'm not promoting them, but I mean for money, I'm not promoting them, but they are really, really nice to use. The tip especially, there's a tip like this. It's more of like a highlighter tip. It's a tough tip. This is really, really like it's like using a paintbrush. And the tip is nice. You can put little details in, and I really like it. It's a Michaels brand marker. I buy them individually because they're really not cheap, at least here in Canada. They're in the $4 or $5 range. So I only have a few. I have a yellow one that I use for Tweety Bird. I have an orange one that I use for Tweety Bird's beak and feet, and for Daffy Duck's beak and feet as well. And I've got a gray one that I use for Bugs Bunny. but otherwise I don't have any because I can't afford them. And I find the only thing I don't like about them is they don't last very long. Like I could draw maybe 10 or 20 Tweety Birds this size and the ink starts to fade. Well, as you can see, I kind of went inside his eye a little bit, but that's okay. You'll be more careful. And as you can see, it's not bleeding. If I had outlined this with the Sharpie, it would have been a disaster. I started drawing the Looney Tunes in early 2018. Actually, I started drawing in 2018. I'm going to do a video of that one day about how I got started in art. But I basically started painting after suffering a work accident back in 2003. I started doing art as therapy, but it was more abstract stuff. In 2013, I actually got the entire series of The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. I watched all 28 seasons. I think there's 28. And I followed along with a couple of dozen of his oil painting tutorials, and that's how I started really painting. I switched to acrylics, and then I switched to watercolors. And then in 2018, I decided I wanted to see if I could draw. And actually, this is the first Looney Tune that I drew, Chilly Willy the Penguin. And I learned how to draw the Looney Tunes with geometric shapes. I actually followed along with some videos back in 2018 that I found on somebody's blog, and I tried looking for them and I couldn't find the videos, but whoever uploaded those tutorials, they really helped me to figure out proportions and measurements, and that's how I learned to draw all of my cartoons. I watched a Bugs Bunny tutorial and I watched a Tweety Bird tutorial. And then for the rest of the Looney Tunes, I was able to figure it out on my own using geometric shapes, how to draw them properly and get their proportions right. So whoever you are, if you happen to see this, thank you. You taught me how to draw. For my portraits, though, Charlie, settle down. I love having pets in the house, but boy, they make noise sometimes. For my portraits, I tend to use a grid method to draw, and I'll do a video on that one of these days. That's a long one, so. Okay, so we've got his beak and his feet done. We're going to go in and do his eyes with the blue. His irises are blue because he has to look as cute as possible, right? He is a sweetie pie, a Tweety pie. Art tutorials have helped me a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I love doing this channel, because I learned so much from watching, and I want to share what I've learned because it's kind of like giving back, you know? His pupils are black, and like I said, sometimes in some of the shorts they're dark blue, but I'm going to stick with black today. I think that I have a lot to share with people, and I'm very happy to do so. If you want to see me draw something or someone, leave me a comment below to suggest it, and I'll see if I can figure out how to do it. Okay, so we've got all the colors in. Now we're just going to add the last little bits of detail. Tweety Bird has 3 pieces of hair. Okay. He's got a little detail on his chest and on both of his hands. He's got these very pretty eyelashes, 3 of them. And he's got eyebrows. So there you go. There's Tweety Bird. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. They upload every Thursday. And leave me a comment. Like I said, I love reading comments and I love replying to them. And if you've drawn Tweety Bird or any of my other tutorials, please somehow leave me a link so that I can check out your drawing. I would love to see that. And I guess that's it for today. So thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.